Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. Welcome into Green Dot Daily, Action Network's daily sports betting show. Boy, do we have a good show coming your way today. Green Dot Daily streaming live in the Action app. Yes, you can watch the show in the app while you log your picks, look at our analysts' picks. Whatever you need to do in the app, you can watch the show too. That's kind of cool. You can also watch us on YouTube, Action Network YouTube, as well as Action Network HQ on Twitter. This show is presented by BetMGM, and you can use the bonus code ACTION when signing up to get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Terms and conditions apply. So, coming up on the show today, Joe Dellera is going to join us. He's got a couple of best bets in the NBA. Collin Wilson chimes in once again on the latest in college football, a play he likes for tonight. And Samantha Previte joins us to give us an understanding of who you might want to start and who you might want to sit in this hold your nose kind of football game tonight between the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons. And we're going to start that conversation about this game now by welcoming in two of our very best when it comes to predictive analytics at Action Network. They cover the NFL, a variety of sports, Sean Koerner and Nick Giffen. So, fellas, Atlanta was the best team in the NFL against the spread to begin the season, 6-0. They've lost their last three now against the number. They're getting 64% of the bets at -2.5. There is most of the money, though, the actual handle coming in on Carolina at 71%. Marcus Mariota, not very good on Thursday night. Short rest, also as a road favorite in his career. There's some weather concerns in this game, so we have a lot to unpack. Koerner, with all that being said, where are you looking as it pertains to a player prop for tonight?
Yeah, so I'm going D'Onta Foreman over 54.5 rushing yards. And as you mentioned, we could see some pretty heavy rain tonight, along with some, 10 to 15 mile an hour winds. And it's not like either of these teams really need an excuse to lean on the run, but they certainly have a good excuse tonight with the weather. And my nickname for Foreman is Dollar Store Derrick Henry. And that is not an insult. It's a compliment because he has a very similar power running style. So I expect the Panthers, to lean on him heavily tonight in the sloppy conditions. And ever since week 7, after the Panthers fired Matt Rule, traded away Christian McCaffrey, the Panthers have run the ball at the 5th highest rate on early downs in neutral situations. So Foreman has cleared this number in 2 of 3 games since then. He's actually cleared 100 yards in 2 of 3 games since then. Last week was the only time he failed to clear this number. And it mainly had to do with the Panthers being down 35 nothing at halftime. So the Panthers and Foreman should get back on track tonight. He ran all over the Falcons 2 weeks ago for 118 yards. This Falcons defensive line is below average. They have the lowest stuff rate on first downs against opposing running backs. So we should see Foreman make it to the second level pretty frequently tonight, picking up 4 to 6 yard chunks, occasionally breaking off a 10 or more yard run. So Chuba Hubbard is expected to return tonight, but he could be eased in. I don't know if he's 100% yet. And if anything, he'll just take most of Foreman's receiving down work. So either way, Foreman doesn't see much work in the passing game. They should lean on him heavily on early down. So I'm projecting this closer to 61.5, but with rain in the forecast, I like his upside tonight.
There is always some value at the dollar store if you look carefully and invest. And that's what Sean Koerner does when it comes to the player prop market. You also have a lean. It might actually adhere to what you like on the player prop side. You have a lean in terms of a side tonight.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I like this prop is I do like the Panthers to win tonight outright. I got them at +3. Unfortunately, all the +3s are gone out there. It's dropped to 2.5. But like you alluded to, I think it's because the sharp action is on the Panthers tonight. So if you see a 3 pop up somewhere, take it. And the Panthers got blown out last week against the Bengals. They ended up scoring some garbage time points, so they lost by 21. But over the past 3 seasons, teams that lost by 20 or more points have covered the spread 58% of the time the following week. So it has to do with the market just overreacting to a 1-game sample size. That's what's going on here. Like I said, I expect PJ Walker and the Panthers offense to have a bounce back game here against the Falcons. And one of the things with this is we'll either get high-end PJ Walker, and if not, they're going to bring in Baker Mayfield. So say what you want about Baker Mayfield. He is still one of the better backups in the league. So that gives us a nice safety net here tonight if they do fall behind. And, the Falcons are a run-heavy team. And a lot of their success this year has been on the offensive line, but they have been hit hard by injuries at the left guard position. Starting left guard Elijah Wilkinson suffered a knee injury 2 weeks ago, putting him on the IR. And then last week, his replacement, Matt Hennessy, suffered a knee injury, placing him on the IR. So now they have to turn to backup Colby Gossett to start at left guard. So anytime you get this constant sort of shuffling on the offensive line, especially on a short week, it can cause some issues. So I think that could be another reason why people are on the Panthers tonight. But again, I would only take them at +3. So wait to see if that pops up again.
Okay, that number, of course, a key number, an important number, reinforcements up front. Great for Atlanta. They're also happy to have Cordarrelle Patterson back in their backfield, returning from IR. So, as I mentioned, these guys really crunch the numbers, two of our very best when it comes to predictive analytics. Here are the latest NFL luck rankings against the spread records when there's a 10-plus luck ranking differential, 9 games over 500 against the spread, and when it comes to a 16-plus luck ranking differential, 7 games over 500. That leads us to Nick Giffen, who has been waiting patiently to weigh in. I don't know if he's got much on this game tonight, but that could change because he's the live betting master. We'll have more on that momentarily. But Nick, you've got, based on these luck ranking numbers, you've got a play you like for this coming weekend.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, I'm not on, like you said, like on anything tonight. I am looking towards the weekend, and I like the Cleveland Browns at +3.5. It was +4 as of last night. It's moved to +3.5 now. Still like them there because we're not hitting that key number of 3 yet. But Cleveland is ranked 29th in our luck rankings. Miami is ranked 10th. So that's a 19-place differential. And as you mentioned, 16-plus differential is 16-9 against the spread this year. That's well over a 60% hit rate. It's also a 33.1% luck percentage gap. And that luck percentage gap is also very important. It's actually slightly more significant than the differential gap of 29-10. That actual luck percentage matters a lot more. So this is a very important game in that regard. Also, Cleveland, of course, is coming off a bye. And, you know, that previous week before the bye, their big win versus Cincinnati. Whereas Miami, they beat the Bears, but the Bears actually covered the spread, which was Sean's pick last week, and, you know, underwhelmed a little bit there versus the Bears. Miami, I think, matches up very well for the Browns because normally you would like to say like, oh, well, you know, this team's a great passing offense and they're going up against a terrible pass defense. I'm actually looking at kind of the opposite situation here. Miami has been kind of a pass funnel defense, much better versus the run than versus the passes. If you look at like DVOA, for example, but the Browns' strength is running. So why would I pick them against Miami when they're a pass funnel D? Well, that's because I think the Browns are just good at running no matter what. I mean, you look at what Nick Chubb has done this year, at least 50 yards in every game. And that 150-plus yard game was very low. Everything else has been over 80 yards, just monster yards per carry. I'm not really worried about the rushing side of things. I think the fact that Miami's a pass funnel defense helps Jacoby Brissett more than anything and helps the passing game there. So they should be able to move the ball in all facets of the game. So I really like Cleveland in this scenario. Miami getting about 60% of the bets, but only 25% of the money. So it looks like some big and some sharp action is on Cleveland here.
Kevin Stefanski has been good as a dog in his tenure with the Browns, 10-7 against the spread, 5-12 straight up, but does get there with the number in his tenure with Cleveland. Sean Koerner, you also have, based on these luck rankings, you also have a pick for this coming weekend.
Yeah, I'm going with the Jaguars +9.5. They rank 31st in our luck rankings against the Chiefs, who rank 9th. So that's a luck rank differential of 22. And the Jaguars are a team most people wrote off after their 5-game losing streak from weeks 4 through 8. But all 5 of those losses were by 1 score. In fact, all 6 of their losses this season have been by 1 score. So getting them +9.5 is really enticing. Even if they don't win here, they should at least be able to keep it close. We saw last week the Chiefs nearly lost to Malik Willis, only throwing for 80 yards against them. And they were able to lean on Derrick Henry as he ran all over the Chiefs. So the Jaguars have been leaning on Travis Etienne a ton the past few weeks. He's looking like one of the more dynamic runners in the league. So I think they'll have a similar recipe here to at least keep it close. And if they do fall behind, Trevor Lawrence in the passing attack is fully capable of getting a backdoor cover here. So 80% of the action is all over the Chiefs here. We already know the Chiefs are a good team. So I think this is mostly due to the public perception just being a bit off on the Jaguars here. They're kind of a feisty team that should be able to keep it close.
Feisty in London, and then they got the Raiders at home. Of course, that trend of coming from London and then playing immediately the next week, that does not bode well, but they hung in there, played well in the second half. The Raiders didn't look all that good in the second half, but long story short, Jaguars are just 4-13 against the spread in their last 17 games. Something's got to give with this football team, it feels like. Okay, as a reminder, check out the full luck rankings in the Action Network app. Mandatory reading before you bet the NFL this weekend, because as these guys just highlighted, at some point, you got some regression here coming in, and it feels like teams that aren't as bad as they really look when it comes to covering, they should be in good hands based on these rankings. Something too that's been pretty wild in the NFL this year? Second half trends, second half unders this year, hitting at just below 60%. That is the best start in 6 years, second best since 2005. And this season, teams trailing at the half are covering the spread at 60% against the second half number. So the team that's trailing at halftime, whatever the number is, that team trailing at the half, they are covering at 60%. So that leads us to this, Nick Giffen, who, by the way, does a phenomenal job joining us. NFL halftime is so short, which is great for the consumer. And I know we all can agree on that. Like, it's been fantastic. Some of these halftimes in college football, college basketball, it's like, can we move it along here, please? In the NFL, these guys are banging and bruising for 30 minutes, and then they get right back out there. It's really, really something. And I really just give these guys a lot of credit. But Nick does a good job with his live betting coverage at halftime. When you see these kinds of trends, do these have any impact on how you put together your model and how you might look at a game?
Actually, it doesn't. Funny enough.
Okay.
And, on Thursday night, I should say on Monday night, I took a live over and we hit the live over. So in the second half there. So it all just depends, game situation, team paces, etc. But it really doesn't impact it. I think it's one thing if I am showing value on maybe a second half under, this is a little added bonus. You can say they've been hitting at a 60% rate, best since 2016. What I think is really interesting here is we have both of these trends at once. The second half under, best start since 2016, and the team trailing, best start since 2015. If they, the fact that they're happening at the same time, whereas the last time it was the best that it had happened was different years, maybe there's something there together. I'm not quite sure. It could be maybe something like defensive philosophy. And I think that was one of the things when we were just talking about unders in general to start the year. It seems like teams are forcing teams to not throw over the top as much and kind of shorter passing game, more in the running style. So that could be a reason for unders just overall, but that also could be a reason maybe why the trailing team is coming back. There's just a little bit of that rebound effect because of defensive philosophy. It's just a theory, hypothesis, not really sure. But it's not something I'm actively considering when I'm making my second half bets. I'm really just taking, several past years of data. I fit a model to it, and that's what we're going from. So, some years unders are going to hit, some years overs are going to hit, and some years will be right around 50-50, I think.
Yeah, I really have nothing to weigh in on in terms of what happened in 2005. Like, what was going on in the world in 2005? I couldn't tell you. That was a long time ago, 17 years ago. I don't really have many thoughts. What was happening in 2005 in the NFL? We'd have to do a deep dive on that, but good stuff from Nick Giffen. And again, remind the people where they can find you tonight.
Yeah, we are doing Bet What Happens live at halftime of this Thursday night football game. You can find us over on YouTube. I'll always tweet out a link with it. And of course, the Action Network handle will always tweet out a link as well. So make sure to check in for halftime. We've been on a little bit of a roll recently, so let's keep going.
Okay, Nick, good stuff. Thanks a lot.
Yep.
We got a slate of NBA games tonight as well. Here's what we're looking at in the association. A Kristaps Porzingis revenge spot taking on the Mavericks. Wizards are hosting the Mavs. Money coming in on Dallas after they fell to the Orlando Magic, who did not have Paolo Banchero. Let that sink in for a second. Miami's at home against the Hornets. And those feisty Blazers taking on the Pelicans. Let's go to Mr. Joe Dellera for thoughts on tonight's slate.
Hey everybody, it's Joe Dellera, and I've got two of my favorite NBA plays for tonight's Thursday slate. The first pick is the New Orleans Pelicans against the Portland Trail Blazers, and I'm going to be taking the Blazers +7. Part of what I like here for the Blazers is that this game really sets up two strengths for them against two strengths of the Pelicans. Look, the Pelicans, they've been dominant on the interior. They're crushing the paint. They're crushing from short mid-range. They have some of the best shooting percentage marks on the season from those locations in terms of frequency, getting those shots, and actually making those shots. But the thing is, the Blazers, they've got defenders. They've got Nurkic, they've got Jeremy Grant, they've got these guys in the interior that can really body up and play some tough defense on the interior. And they've been very good defending those shots on the season. On the flip side, you have the New Orleans Pelicans, who have been pretty good at limiting three-point opportunities, but when those opportunities are even taken, opponents are shooting some of the lowest percentages in the league against the Pelicans from three-point range. The problem is that they kind of are giving those shots up, and that's a recipe for disaster for the Pelicans. We just saw them lose to the Pacers, where they really just kind of got out-math advantage there in that game. And that's something that the Portland Trail Blazers can really take advantage of. The Blazers have snipers. They got Anthony Simons. They've got Damian Lillard. And the team as a whole is almost shooting 40% from three-point range. And that's a spot that I think they're going to be able to exploit. The blueprint's out there. That's how you beat the New Orleans Pelicans, and it's from shooting from downtown. So I like this spot. I really think that there's no real rest advantage for the Pelicans or home court necessarily, just because of the travel. And I'll be taking the 7 points. I'm getting it over 2 possessions with the Portland Trail Blazers. As for my second pick, I'm going to be taking the Philadelphia 76ers on the money line against the Atlanta Hawks. Look, this is a spot where I really like Philly. They have a significant rest advantage. They haven't played in a couple of days. The Hawks just played last night. And Trae Young, he played, but he had been out and he missed some games with injury. So we're not really sure how that shin's going to flare up. So I think if you get in on this now, you're getting Philly as a little bit of a dog. You're getting a good amount of line value, just on the off chance that Trae does get ruled out and that shin really swells up and he can't go. But additionally, the way to beat the Sixers is by shooting the 3-ball. And Atlanta has really traded away a lot of their guys that were effective and efficient at doing so. So I think that one type of advantage and the fact that maybe they could try to exploit Philly and drop coverage is kind of neutralized this year. They just don't really have the personnel to do that, especially if Trae is out. So I'll be taking the Philadelphia 76ers on the money line. You can grab it around +105 right now, and I expect them to take care of business against the Atlanta Hawks. So to recap, my 2 favorite plays are the Portland Trail Blazers +7 and the Philadelphia 76ers on the money line. Best of luck and enjoy these games.
All right, Joe, we might have to tune into some of the NBA tonight with this Thursday night football game we've got between Carolina and Atlanta. Of course, you can catch the Buckets podcast, Action Network's NBA betting podcast, Monday through Friday. Yes, episodes every weekday with the crew. If you listen, Matt Moore might give you that kind of look that he's giving you in that promo right there. Yeah, Matt, he's just so dialed in this week. Of course, talking about the Nets perhaps. But yes, Buckets, check them out Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. All right, as we all know, Week 10 begins tonight between the Falcons and Panthers from Carolina. We welcome in Action Network fantasy football analyst Samantha Previte to get a sense of what she's feeling for tonight's game. I can't imagine, Samantha, many folks around here that play fantasy football, whether it be mostly season long, but even from a DFS standpoint, they're like, all right, how do I put together a lineup for this putrid matchup? From a season long perspective, if you had to really hold your nose and make a case to start someone, who might that be?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Week 10 kicks off with the NFC showdown, NFC South showdown that nobody asked for. The good news is that this is going to be the only primetime game for both of these teams. So for starters, I would like to start all of the running backs, and that's Chuba Hubbard, Donta Foreman, Cordarrelle Patterson, Tyler Algier. All of these guys have had their moments of late. Both backfields were productive in Week 8 in that huge shootout when these teams last met. Algier was the RB13, Foreman was the RB5. Chuba Hubbard is trending towards returning, having logged a full practice yesterday, though I will say just keep monitoring that status because he could be a late inactive. But Patterson definitely came storming back after a 4-game absence last week and scored a pair of touchdowns. Why I really, really like these guys is the weather. Rain is super likely, potential for heavy rainfall, winds possibly 10 to 20 miles per hour, rainfall nearly an inch. So it could definitely be a sloppy game with both teams leaning very heavily on the run. I would consider Patterson and Foreman RB2s with RB1 upside and Algier and Hubbard as RB3 flex plays, assuming Hubbard plays.
Yeah, short rest, and you consider the way unders have hit this season, just at 60%, unders at night. These two teams really fit those two categories awfully well based on their production and lack of weapons, at least lack of just formidable offensive game planning here at this point in the season. So when it comes to sitting someone, I feel like this might be a tougher discussion because you could make the case just to not play anybody in this game. But if you had to sit someone that could very well be on a majority of folks' rosters at this point in the year, who would that person be?
Yeah, I want you to sit Marcus Mariota the more I think about it. I actually was trying to talk myself into it because this is a good matchup against Carolina's 28th ranked pass defense, according to Football Outsiders DVOA metric. And the last time these two teams met in week 8, Mariota was the QB6, though that was a season high 28 attempts, and he threw 2 picks in that game, and that did take them to overtime. So I'm not sure that I am expecting 71 points in this game. I think he's an okay desperation start if you have a quarterback on bye, but the weather could already limit his pretty low passing upside. So I would consider him sort of a QB2 with a pretty wide range of outcomes tonight.
Excellent. And as we said, Falcons Panthers kicks off week 10. If you missed some of our coverage earlier in the show, check it out. We've got a bunch of stuff coming up for tonight's game. But now as we look ahead to the weekend here in week 10, who is a player to you that might be making their way to the hot seat if they don't turn a corner very soon and make owners happy?
I'm very concerned about Najee Harris. He was the RB4 in half PPR last year in what was a historic rookie season for him, subsequently drafted as a top 6 running back in half PPR this year. There were warning signs about a potential sophomore slump, though. He dealt with 2 foot injuries during training camp and regular season. Now he is being outgained by rookie Jaylen Warren. That was before the bye. Efficiency has just been an issue for him all year. He has 3.3 yards per carry versus Warren's 5.3 yards per carry. So right now he's actually projected for just 767 rushing yards. Last year he had 1,200 rushing yards. So he is actually expected to have a reduced workload going forward and lose touches to Warren. So I am feeling quite good about all of my Harris season-long unders I took in August. But yes, I am very concerned about him from a fantasy perspective and think that he could be falling out of favor with the fantasy world.
Yeah, those Liz Frank sprains are no joke. Like, they're not, you can play and try to shrug it off and go week to week, but those things can linger and pop up at any time. The Steelers play the Saints this week at home. Samantha Previte, thanks so much for the time, and might be a hold your nose kind of night watching this game.
Very much so. Thank you very much.
In college football, a couple of games to look forward to. Here's our market report. Louisiana Lafayette getting a majority of the bets and the money for tonight's game. And then you've got Tulsa, Memphis. Memphis just under that key number of 7 at -6.5. Money coming in on Memphis for tonight. Let's hear from Collin Wilson. Out of these two games, he likes a pick. Let's see him.
Hey everyone, it's Collin Wilson with the Action Network, and here is a college football play for Thursday night. We're going to go with Louisiana, -3.5. The Ragin' Cajuns have covered every game at home except for one this season, and now Georgia Southern comes knocking in Lafayette, looking to get the bowl season, sitting on 5 wins. The Ragin' Cajuns defense has been excellent at getting offenses behind schedule this season. They force a lot of passing attempts on 2nd and 3rd down, and Louisiana's top 10 nationally in coverage grading. They're great against the pass. They have a stingy top 20 rank and opponent scoring opportunities. They just don't allow a lot of drives past the 40-yard line to end up in points. And on the other side, when ULL is on offense, they have plenty of advantages on the ground. Look for quarterback Ben Woldridge to hand the ball off a lot. Georgia Southern's defense is near dead last in line yards, meaning they are not getting the required yards and getting stops. Look out for running back Chris Smith. He's the most explosive running back for Louisiana. He averages 3.4 yards after contact, and he's had 10 explosive runs on just 76 attempts this year. So Georgia Southern does not have the rush defense to keep up with Chris Smith and the other running back stables for Louisiana. Take the Raging Cajuns -3.5 on Thursday night. Good luck.
Collin, thank you. And of course, you can find Collin Wilson, the rest of our contributors who are on today's show, and their picks over in the Action Network app. Just follow the account green.daily. We take the picks from the show and log them there each and every weekday, so you'll never miss a pick from Nick, Koerner, Joe, Collin Wilson. Green Dot Daily is presented by BetMGM. Use the bonus code ACTION when signing up to get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Terms and conditions apply. As a reminder, we are not done as it pertains to our Action Network NFL coverage on this Thursday. Week 10 begins with Action Island, the Island show coming your way this evening prior to Falcons Panthers. That is a show that has a lot of fun. And if you're trying to make tonight fun and actionable, I mean, you can probably do that on your own anyway, but to make it even more actionable, go to the Island for Panthers and Falcons, and that crew will get you amped up, even though it's not the most sexy matchup. Okay? That's my suggestion. Thanks to everyone for tuning in, everyone behind the scenes getting us up and running here at Action Network, and also all of our contributors who joined us today. I'm Brendan Glasheen. Thanks for tuning in to Green Dot Daily. We return tomorrow at noon. Best of luck tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow.